talking about the new moon in Pisces in the nakshatra of Revati. This is a time of connecting to that metaphysical truth of the universe, connecting with the great god Pushan, the gentle shepherd energy to lead us home. I'll be talking about that in this video. Okay, so looking at a new moon in Pisces, and there we go, there's the chart. The new moon in Pisces, and we can see this is happening. It'll be April 5th, about 1:30 a.m. In the Pacific U.S. around that time, and so this is a going to be 30 days of really connecting with that sort of Pisces energy. And of course, Pisces now it's the feminine or reflective quality of Jupiter, and of course, Jupiter is the planet of inspiration, higher purpose, teachings. The Sanskrit name is Guru, which means heavy, and sort of dispeller of darkness is another one. I really like the term heavy though for Guru because it's that energy that has what you would call gravitas, right? Now, of course, Jupiter also can make you heavy. It's funny how these things work in Indian, thinking. So the planet Jupiter also can make you literally gain weight, but it shows the gravitas of certain things. So great teachings have weight to them. And what that weight does is it allows us to sink down into something much deeper, right? And notice the quality of Jupiter is exalted in a water sign, in the sign of Cancer, which is literally the sign of the heart. So it also shows how we're supposed to take those great teachings and allow them to pull us deeper into the heart, sort of like an anchor, like our life is anchored to these deep teachings, these great gurus. And so this is why Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, which is that sign also of trust, almost like a child's innocence, like that childlike innocence and faith in our teachers and in those things that we believe in. So, Jupiter has that quality, and of course this is also the quality of sattva, the quality of trust and beauty and wisdom, and all of that is the highest quality of Jupiter. And through the sign of Pisces, it's very much that emotional, psychological side to Jupiter. That's why I mentioned its exaltation in Cancer, because Cancer is a water sign, Pisces is a water sign. So Pisces, people have planets in Pisces, or just the sign in general, this cycle that we're going through now, there will be that quality of innocence and trust and the desire to want to surrender into deeper, beautiful teachings. And Pisces has that nature that's not really of this earth, sort of not of this world, that kind of, sense of beauty and joy and sweetness that is beyond all the problems of the earth. And there's an enormous amount of compassion for all of the pain and trouble and trauma of the creatures on this earth, because we're all somewhat pitiful here to some extent. And that's not an insult, but we're all ignorant. We're ignorant, more kind of like ignorant animals, kind of walking around and defending our little turf for a limited amount of time, ignorant of our death, of our truth, of our life, of life itself, with a bunch of narrow opinions and perspectives, and just, it's pitiful. In a good way. What? Pitiful in a good way. Okay. No, I say this because, when we remember this, or when we see this and understand this quality of life, it's very easy to have compassion for everyone when we remember that we're all sort of ignorant animals. I don't know. This has actually always been something that I've remembered. I don't know why. Part of it might be because I have Jupiter in Pisces. And even with myself, I remember I'm just a dumb, ignorant animal. And notice how we look at animals. Like, think of an animal that you really love. What is it about animals that we love so much? Like, what is it about their beauty that is different than the beauty of people? Like, people have beauty as well. You know, we have a certain quality of beauty, whether it's physical beauty or we find that someone is cute or something like that. But it's different with animals. Animals have a universal kind of beauty. Even ugly animals, even certain breeds of dogs or cats or whatever. And what is it about their beauty? And I think what it is their innocence. They're not conscious. Like, you could put funny hats on a dog and the dog will just walk around with the hat on. What is it about that that's so beautiful and so cute and so compelling? It's this innocence that they have. And that makes us want to take care of them, just like children, right? Children have that same innocent beauty that makes us want to protect them, makes us want to take care of them. Again, this is why Jupiter is the Karaka, or the indicator of children. And again, you want to understand the reason why how and why these Karakas exist is because when we get around children, or when we get around animals or some innocent being that we want to take care of, it evokes the higher Jupiter in us. When we're interacting on that level, when we're interacting with children, our Jupiter comes forth. What is that? It's that desire, however much we have, to do good, to do the right thing, to understand that we're an example, that we need to be high-minded because it's just an innocent child who doesn't really know any better, or a dog that doesn't know any better. We forgive the dog for pooping all over the floor, and we wouldn't forgive, we forgive a 6-year-old dog for peeing on the bed because they were mad at us that we left. But if our, 15-year-old child did it, we wouldn't be so easy to forgive because they know better. The child does. The dog doesn't. That's all they have. So they're innocent. So this is a big quality of Pisces. And, one of the things that I've shared my story before about my childhood and whatnot. And, it was beautiful in its own way, but it was definitely challenging by most standards. And at times, especially when I was really working through and evolving, especially my relationship with my father, it was one of the things that made it so I really couldn't hate him, even though I had every reason to hate him. We say, because he mistreated me, hit my mother, he was this and that. I would look at him and I could just see that he was just a sad, helpless animal. By the way, just like me. Not that I was better, because I'm also a sad, helpless animal, but I would just feel sad and sorry for the pitiful animal that he was and that I was. And that underneath it all, we were really no different. He was in circumstances that he didn't handle very well, and I actually used to feel more sorry for him because of what he carried around than myself for whatever happened, or whatever vendetta or revenge or whatever satisfaction I would get by setting him straight for whatever he did would be irrelevant compared to the pain that I would bring to someone who didn't know any better and who did their best. Again, that's everyone's plight. All of us are here just making mistake after mistake with no compassion for each other. And, this awareness of that deeper, more metaphysical lesson is really a lot of that Pisces energy. And you know, especially the nakshatra of Revati. This is why Revati is the last nakshatra, and it's literally ruled by the shepherd god Pushan. And that shepherd god is the one who leads the animals home and cares for the animals. It's a very powerful symbol of having compassion for the innocent and seeing the universality of it all as well. And again, sometimes there's a piety or a judgment involved when you say something like, I just feel sorry for my father because he was this or that, or I feel sorry for this person because they're just so stupid or something. And I mean, there's some of that. We all have some of that. That's not the compassion that I'm talking about, but an authentic compassion for the plight of all of us, and that we're all here, trying to ascend and trying to connect with something beyond, and we have a hard time with it because Earth is a hard place to do it. That's a real deeper lesson of Pisces, and particularly in Revati. It's very hard when people have planets in Revati, to like stay mad at others, hold grudges, in general, because it's that compassion and that awareness that underneath it all, this isn't what's real, right? This isn't what's real, and it's just sad that we all are so forgetful of what is real and what is eternal and what is beyond, and how sad it is that we get lost in that. And not just how sad it is that you're lost in it, but how sad it is I'm lost in it as well. I remember a story that one of my great Swami friends told me. I've been blessed to know quite a few very high up, it doesn't mean famous, or I mean, actually this one in particular is, but even just high beings, told me about when her guru was dying. Her Satguru, who was an enlightened being, was literally like paralyzed on his deathbed, couldn't speak, was drooling. I mean, it was like they were, I think it was like a week before they died or something. They had strokes and they were just incapacitated. And this Swami, I don't know, maybe she was in her maybe early 30s or something. I don't really know the time frame. But she described the feeling of maybe going to see him because she had been separated, and she was going to the hotel, to the hospital, or maybe it was at ashram, or whatever the room was that he was in. And she was thinking to herself how bad it's going to be to see her guru, and how she will be feeling pity for him, like when she walks in, how hard it's going to be to feel that pity for this man who she loved so much and who was such a great lion of yoga and a powerful man. Now he's been reduced to this slobbering person who's about to die. And she related the story. It's really profound. She said, I walked in and I thought I was going to think to myself, oh, poor Swamiji, poor him. And instead I thought, poor me. Because he still had, her story was to illustrate that even in that state, he had the glow of God because he was very close to death. And in spite of that physical sort of dilapidation, his eyes were just sparkling. He was an enlightened being. His eyes were just sparkling with this childlike wonder and this smile on his face. Even in this decrepit form, he was smiling and he was just like wanting to hold her face. And she said, instead of thinking, poor him, I was thinking, poor me. Right? And, the story was to illustrate the power of the soul, the power and the illusion of the body, the illusion of the form. We think, oh, this person has had a stroke. And that's just the physical body. To the person who is established in the Brahman, in the soul, it's just the shell. And he was about to shed the shell. This person who had done yoga for so long and who had done so much was probably rejoicing. She said when you look at his eyes, he was just like, he looked so happy. He looked so happy in his drooling state of like, ugh. But because she also knew him and she was also a meditator and whatnot, instead of thinking poor him, I thought poor me. So it's the same, it's the same kind of feeling that I had when I would see my father. It was on this very animal level that I found love and compassion for him and everyone really. And sometimes it's much easier to love each other on that level. It's also why it's often easier to love animals than people, because there's an innocence and a sweetness to it, right? But these are very rich metaphors, not just emotionally and psychologically and spiritually and cosmically, but practically in your life as well. And this sign of Pisces falls somewhere in your chart. I do have the membership site. I just did the video for my full members about this next 30 days of Pisces. Like, for example, I'm Gemini, so this cycle of Pisces falls in my 10th house. So for me, it's my work, it's my career. It's what makes Gemini people good at teaching kinds of careers. They're some of the best teachers if they ever can grow up and take anything seriously, which it took me a long time, almost in my 40s, before I really was ready to take responsibility. But then once I did, it was what I loved, and it was communicating and things that, again, that's often what Gemini does, as shown by the fact that Pisces is their 10th house, right? So it's also why I've suddenly felt this upswell of teaching and ready to do all kinds of stuff now, ready to put a lot out there, because this is the Gemini relationship with Pisces. So this new moon, this cycle of Pisces for Gemini is a cycle of work, responsibility, and hopefully they're in line with those duties and responsibilities. But if it's for Capricorn, it's the 3rd house. So this actually shows literally how Capricorn people bring that Pisces nature to 3rd house matters. 3rd house matters like finding new ways of doing things, using their individual mind to search for alternative answers to things, 3rd house stuff. So their 3rd house nature is Piscean. Gemini, their 10th house nature is Piscean, right? So you want to look and see in your life, based on your sidereal rising sign, how this cycle works for you. And this is the original. This is why there are 12 zodiac signs and 12 months in the year. That's why there are 12. Right? That's why there are 12. Because in one revolution of the Earth around the sun, there are 12 lunation cycles, new moon to new moon. There are 12 of them. So these 12 cycles break up the year into 12 months and the zodiac into 12 portions, because they started measuring these 12 sections of the sky where we were having these cycles, in these 12 sections of the sky, right? Of course, it's sidereal. Vedic astrology is clearly sidereal. And that's why you have 12 zodiac signs and 12 months, right? 12 months in the calendar. You could actually do without 12 months in the calendar. The calendar is mainly based on 4 positions, equinoxes and solstices, but it makes sense to break it up into portions as well beyond that, because again, because of the lunation cycles, because of the months. But notice how we don't keep time with the calendar now. The calendar is disconnected from the from the timekeeping, at least in the West, whereas in India, it's not. Because in India, this is the beginning of a month in India, at least using the Solai lunar calendar. And in China, in many Asian countries, right? So these cycles are really important. This is actually the beginning of the month right now. January, February, March, none of that has anything. These are Gregorian calendar dates. They are important, but they're important in a very ancillary way. Your life is governed by these lunation cycles. This is the beginning of a cycle right now. Again, whether you know it or not, watch and see. Right now, and like right before the cycle, you're feeling kind of drained. And you're feeling kind of drained around those themes. And then it starts from this like empty pot, right? Because sun and moon are together. They're together in this quality of Pisces. Now notice throughout the month these things I'm talking about and how this is the awareness right now on this new moon of these things I'm talking about. Having greater compassion, having greater empathy, right? Higher teachings. So if we look at other parts of the chart here, what we also have, we have Mercury, Venus are in Aquarius, which shows a lot of creativity and connecting what you like and what you enjoy, which is Mercury and Venus stuff, with culture, with people, with the society. Last month we had the Aquarius lesson. Last month, 30 days ago, was the beginning of the Aquarius lesson, and we were right on the verge of Rahu moving into Gemini. We were right on the verge of all that stuff, like I was saying, culture, ideas coming out, disclosures, higher causes, social causes. That was a lot of the previous month. Now it's more metaphysical, even beyond this earth. This is the evolution of Aquarius to Pisces. And again, these are the cycles that are happening all the time. And by the way, just to say, I've been tracking this stuff for more than 10 years. All the time I do this. Every day, in fact. Every day I do this, right? So when I say people are in my member site, that's what they're doing. They're getting my daily forecast that I've been doing for, again, more than 10 years. So this is at the end of the Aquarius cycle, which was all of that social culture, our collective. Look at what happened last month. We had the Brexit, all that stuff again in Brexit. Notice how that kind of just came to a resolution. Not a final resolution, but the last month there was all of that. How are we in it together stuff. This was Aquarius. Again, just to say, sidereal zodiac. And also Rahu went into Gemini. Again, we've had disclosures of Mueller reports and communications about media, and this has been huge the last month. So this next month is going to be more of that other thing that I'm talking about, more of that metaphysical, even beyond the collective karma that we have together through Aquarius and whatnot. So, but Mercury and Venus are still there, which leads to a lot of creativity. That's what Mercury and Venus like to do. They like to make the world beautiful, make relationships with each other beautiful. But the relationships maybe had a lot more to do with social relationships as well. That was a big focus for the last month. But beyond that, we have this big pile up here in Aquarius and Sagittarius as well. Ketu, Saturn are joined here. Very important pile up here in Sagittarius. Jupiter poked his head in Sagittarius as well. So a lot of Sagittarius energy right now, which has to do with, finding our sense of purpose and inspiration and what are we focused on? What are we committed to? You can see this again politically and all of that stuff with Ketu, Saturn being very closely joined, and they're going to be even closer as we move forward because Saturn's about to turn retrograde. He's slowing down. He's going to go retrograde with Ketu for months. Jupiter's about to turn retrograde. So there's a lot going on with the Sagittarius energy. And by the way, I did this webinar on the lunar nodes changing into Gemini and Sagittarius. I'm going to make sure to put that out there again so people know to attend it. It's free, no charge. I'll put a link in the bio or in the below this video, so you should check that out. Because we've now had a big shift with Rahu and Gemini, Ketu and Sagittarius. I broke down all of this whole shift. So that's happening behind the scenes. But the big thing for this cycle here is this Pisces cycle. It's really a time for you to dissolve that sense of individuality and merge into that cosmic oneness and float in that cosmic ocean and trust that you're floating home and allow the great shepherd, the great guru, to lead you home. Right? The great teachers, the great teachings are nothing but God's grace leading us home. You know, when you have a guru, when you have a Satguru, what it's called, one of the things that happens when you get initiated by the Satguru is you're making the vow that you will trust the guru to lead you home to where you want to be, to lead you to liberation, to lead you toward salvation and toward liberation. You trust the guru to do that. Now again, these are just words, oh, that's nice. It's the hardest thing you will ever do. Why? Because the ego does not want to surrender. The hardest thing for anyone is surrender. Surrender means you're saying, I'm powerless. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to trust that it's all going to work out and I'll do what you say. Now, eventually we get to surrender, and we surrender all the time after we've made terrible mistakes over and over again. And again, this is the pathetic little animal that I'm talking about that we all are. And that sort of pitiful nature. You know, there's all kinds of great songs, you know, Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound, is that what it is? Who loved a wretch like me? I once was lost, now I'm found. You know, it's this intellectual reckoning. I say intellectual because it's an awareness. You have to come to understand that it's true, and not just intellectually. I just said intellectually, but you have to feel in your bones that it's true, that you don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't know who you are. You don't know why you're here. You don't know anything about this cosmos, about this universe. It somehow has appeared. You've somehow appeared in it. You have no idea why or how. You have these ideas, but you're lost. You're adrift in the sea at the mercy of things that you have no idea, no comprehension of. And yet we have this feeble intellect that tries to understand it somehow, literally not much more than an animal. And so these Mahatmas, these great beings, they have become fully enlightened, and they do understand. And they say, just trust and surrender. That's actually all we need to do is surrender. But what surrender means is dropping the whole facade of the ego and the illusion of the ego. But you're nothing but ego. We're nothing but ego. Our identity is pure ego. And God's grace comes to smash it against the rocks of reality every now and then. And in those moments when we've been smashed and crushed is a great opportunity to surrender. That's when we surrender. But that's not the only possibility. We can also surrender by not getting our ego smashed against the rocky shores of reality, and we can do it through sadhana, through spiritual practice. That's what spiritual practices are, and that's what great gurus tell us. That's what they instruct us to do. When you get a mantra from a great Satguru and a great Mahatma, they give you techniques and methods to do. They give you meditation techniques and things to do that allow you to unfold and unravel higher states of consciousness, and that allow you to surrender. Do this and then you'll surrender. Do this to surrender. Sit this way, say these mantras, breathe this way, and surrender will happen. And if you do those things, I will be there. My grace will be there like the shepherd bringing the pitiful animal home. So these are a few things to ponder this next month. It's great for spiritual practices, for connecting to that higher divine wisdom in you. And may that be the way you experience the next month. Be careful checking out into impure ways. This is also why Pisces leads to that kind of escapism and escaping from the harshness of this world, escaping from the harsh reality into some cultivated, elated state that's chemically induced or something like that. Instead, escape into the truth of that divine love in your heart, of who you truly are, of your true nature.